Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Walking Dead. This will be the first episode we're doing on this, but we do plan to keep the episodes coming through the entirety of season 8. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of go over season 7 and pretty much go through what we thought of it, what we think is going to happen, and things of that nature. So I'm Alec.
I'm Dale.
I'm CJ.
Oh, okay.
One more time.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Dale.
Okay.
There we go.
So, Dale, you got the breakdown for us, right?
Yeah, so in episode 9, A Rock in the Road, we start out with Jesus introducing us to King Ezekiel and the kingdom. Rick and the group are reunited with Morgan. However, Daryl stays in the kingdom to hide from the Saviors. And at the end of the episode, Father Gabriel is kidnapped by a mysterious group. In episode 10, New Best Friends, Rick meets with the Scavengers, or the group that kidnaps Father Gabriel, and they want guns.
Trash holes.
Yeah, I'm gonna call them the trash holes. And they want guns in order to fight the Saviors. Episode 11, Hostiles and Calamities, Eugene is getting comfortable with Negan and the Saviors. Eugene makes poison capsules for Negan's wives, but refuses to give them to them. Negan then kills his doctor, which has been framed by Dwight for Daryl's escape, when in reality it was his wife. Episode 12, Say Yes, Rick and Michonne travel to a school carnival in search for guns to trade to the Scavengers. They find plenty of them, but Jadis, the leader, is not satisfied and wants more. At the end of the episode, Sasha and Rosita plan to take out Negan themselves. Episode 13, Bury Me Here. Richard, a guy from the kingdom, sabotages the kingdom's weekly offering, and that leads to Benjamin's death, which then Morgan decides to kill Richard by strangling him. By the end of the episode, Ezekiel is prepared to fight the Saviors. Episode 14, The Other Side, the Saviors raid the hilltop, which Maggie and Daryl are there, and they have to hide. Sasha goes in gun blazing at the end of the episode and gets captured. Episode 15, Something They Need. Rick and the group travel to Oceanside to get more guns. They end up taking them, and the Oceanside will not fight with them, and Dwight turns himself against Negan and turns himself into Alexandria. Episode 16, The First Day of the Rest of Your Life. Negan takes Sasha to Alexandria to confront Rick. However, Sasha commits suicide with Eugene's poison. The Scavengers, the trash holes, betray Rick. Battle ensues, and we're ready for all-out war.
So at the end of the episode, they all meet up at Hilltop, right? And that's where they come across Daryl.
Daryl was with the group at Alexandria for the big fight.
Oh, that's right. That was before the fight. Was they met up? Okay. So, how did you guys feel like the season ended? What was the impressions?
For me, I feel like, I don't know. As opposed to like other season finales, I felt this one was kind of, I don't know, a little weak.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. But I do think it was a really good point to set up the big war that Rick's group is going to have against Negan's group. I think it was good for establishing that and giving everyone their motivation that they need to then go and battle. But as like emotional payoff, it was just kind of very meh.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything really special.
It didn't change you.
It didn't change me really, like, as opposed to the end of season 6 leading up to season 7.
Right.
Where we didn't know who was going to die, and it was that big
Yeah,
lead.
the big lead off, yeah.
That, while the payoff wasn't spectacular, I do think it was a really emotional episode, and it really got me hooked for the next season coming up.
I think it made me more excited.
Yeah, definitely. The season 6 closer definitely made me really excited for season 7.
Yeah.
But for season 7, its ending, I'm excited, just not as much as I was.
See, I'm at kind of a crossroads where I think that the lead-in is good, but I think the reason that I liked the end of season 6 and on to season 7 so much was because you had the lead off and they established this giant group. Because if you remember, they have like the scenes where they're trying to get to Hilltop, but they just keep cutting them off, and they realize the scope, like the amount of shit that they're in right now, and it kind of sets up for season 7 being a giant establishment of Negan's reign over the land, more or less, and I'm just not sure how long the fights are gonna be in 8. Like, I'm not sure how long they're gonna pull out the us versus them concept with like Hilltop and Kingdom and Alexandria, like the fight against Negan. I don't know how long it's gonna go.
See, that's something I've been noticing, especially with season 7. It felt like the time, like the amount of time that actually passes in the world is like much less than it used to be in earlier seasons.
Dale,
the first half of like season 6 with the Mega Herd, that entire season happened in like a week.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like the time frame is like slowing down to what it used to be, because they go through like multiple seasons, like calendar seasons in the earlier seasons, and now it's kind of really progressing really quickly.
Well, I remember.
But they just have these time jumps, like they'll like skip the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they skip over the shitty seasons.
Like in between,
specifically,
like
in between one of the seasons where they have the flashback of them in winter. Mm-hmm. It's like that would have been cool to watch, but
like between the winter after they get kicked out of the farm, and then after season 3 into season 4, where they've really set up in the prison after Woodbury, those are two big time jumps, and then there's a bit of time after, like a month or two after the Mega Herd gets cleared out, they skip as well. I liked the finale in the fact that they had the scavengers turn on Rick. I thought that was a really big change that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. I was really not... I totally expected Sasha to die somehow. However, I didn't expect the scavengers to turn. And I think it's interesting because they seem like a group that doesn't really care, but it makes you wonder how in tied with Negan they truly are.
Yeah, you also don't... we don't know their motivation or anything, really.
Well, that's what makes it so weird that that they turned on him in the first place. Because they're like, well, Negan gave us a better offer. And it's like, well, like, what do you even care about, though? Like, what's... Yeah.
I personally feel that with the scavengers, they're very much out for themselves. They don't really care about Rick and how moral he is or wanting people to be free. They just want to have a pretty life, and they want to be sitting good.
Well, pretty being subjective.
Well,
yeah, I mean, they literally live in a dump.
Yeah, better than they live in a dump, but they want basically the best for them, and it's much easier going with Negan, who has this wide stretch like reach. Mm-hmm. Like, he reaches out to so many different places. He has such a big army, so many different people under his command who follow him like very, very strictly because of how kind of ruthless he is.
Right. With that, I think and this is a bit of a skeptical thing here, but I think the scavengers might have already been somehow tied in with Negan. Because when they initially meet Rick, what makes them want to turn in the first place? Unless if they already have some predisposition to follow somebody who opposes him, if that makes sense. Because like if you're on one side and then the other side comes up to you and they don't know that you're on the other side, then it gives you an advantage. But I feel like they'd have to have some sort of tie-in beforehand to make them have that turn.
See, that's how I felt as well, is that they had some previous contact with Negan, so they understood how big Negan really is.
Right.
And just how massive his group is. And seeing, like, oh, little old Rick's group that's, like, 2 communities isn't going to do a whole lot for them. So they're going to side with the bigger dog.
Well, it's possible, too, that... because we don't know a whole lot about the scavengers, but it's possible they're kind of like the Oceanside, where they had come across Negan, and now they're in hiding in the dump. Which could be.
Possibly.
That could definitely be a thing.
But like I said, we don't really know about him too much. But then there's the giant fight scene at the end where Ezekiel brings a tiger that nobody kills somehow.
Yeah, how did...
It's just like a giant tiger. It's just mauling people. Nobody thinks to shoot it, though.
I can kind of understand the fact that it's a tiger. You're in the middle
You're a
of
little scared, right?
You're in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. The last thing you think you're going to see is a wild tiger mauling people.
Only semi-wild.
Oh, semi-wild. But a full-grown tiger, you're not going to expect seeing that.
Right.
So I can kind of understand that people are, like, shocked, and they're like, oh my god, a tiger. But you would think at least one
At least
person,
one guy who's more fight than flight
yeah,
would just turn and blast it.
It's like, oh god, there's this giant tiger mauling everybody. Let's focus our fire just for 1 second. Like,
Somebody pop him in the head.
I mean, that tiger could have died so easily. with
Somebody
just
shoot
one
that
person.
tiger.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's all it would have had. That's all it would have taken.
But I think it's got to be a storytelling thing.
I'm sure. It
Absolutely.
Because it's what gives Ezekiel like his distinguishing factors. It's like black dude, dreads, tiger,
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
Now, how long does the tiger last, though?
That's a good.
I would imagine not much longer. I'm gonna guess that they do kind of an assault on like the Negan's. What do we know the name of Negan's like facility?
Sanctuary.
Is it Sanctuary? Yeah.
Okay, so I think they're gonna do a raid on Sanctuary, and then they kill the tiger, and Ezekiel's doing like a last straw meme where he's like real pissed off about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I could see it, but I always have a lot of skepticism, like some predictions for the upcoming seasons.
But we'll get to predictions.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there.
I think much in the way of kind of the Terminus thing. I think the trash holes will be done in a matter of 3 episodes.
Well, Terminus was like this huge build-up for nothing. I was really not happy with the way that they handled that.
Yeah, I feel like that just flew by really fast. Like,
It was a lot of episodes focusing on the smaller groups, and then as soon as they get to Terminus, it was like, now we kill everybody, and we leave.
a good story arc.
Good story arc, yeah. I mean, it was a good couple of episodes. That was just like them walking there. I guess you had the Carol doing the little bit of the what's the book with Lenny
Of Mice and Men.
of Mice and Men thing with the little girls, but and that caused her to go rogue and all that. I guess it was a good arc. I guess I can't complain.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, for me, I think that a lot of the stuff that they're getting into now, because I really liked season 6, and I really liked season 3 and 2, but there's a lot of these down seasons, and I feel like we were in a down season.
That's kind of how I felt. I didn't feel it had the emotional impact of the previous season.
Especially through the whole thing,
Oh,
there
yeah.
wasn't as much going on.
It was
I
more
feel
of a
like.
slow burn kind of feel.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm really hopeful for this season, because it is ramping up to this big war and this big conflict between them and Negan, where it's actually going to be some fighting and not just some passive-aggressive nonsense.
Yeah, because like, what's weird to me is that, well, maybe not weird, but what I think I don't like about The Walking Dead is that they do have the giant down seasons where just nothing happens. It feels like nothing happens because like this whole season was dedicated to like loss, and I wish it focused more on the brutality of Negan so that maybe we feel more justified in his death.
Actually, a thing that I saw, that I read just real quick before this, is that when they opened up with season 7, where they had kind of just the huge like mauling of Glenn and
Abraham.
basically a lot of people said it was like torture porn because of
Yeah.
how gruesome it was.
It was a bit, yeah. It was a bit much.
It was a bit much, but then apparently what they did is they actually toned down a lot of the scenes later down in the rest of the season because
To
of
make up for that.
because of how people received that, because they thought, oh, it's just torture porn, it's just super extravagant violence. So they actually changed that around because they didn't want the whole show just to be about super intense violence. They wanted it to be more about the story
Right.
and how people interact with
And
each
you can
other.
definitely see that the main focus is on storytelling. A lot of people talk about how it's just another zombie show, or it's brutal or scary, but it's definitely more about the storytelling.
Well, it's about the
Especially
characters
here,
and how they interact.
Well, and AMC is so good at character development too.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is, especially in these later seasons, it's not so much about the dead; it's about the living.
Yeah.
Which is what I
In-
really like about the concept. Is
So-
that
so-
the living?
So
is-
I've been reading the
oh,
comics, and there's a point in which Rick makes it very clear. There's this moment that he has where it's just like, the problem isn't really the dead anymore; it's the people.
Yeah, because everyone who's lived this far knows how to take care of the dead. They're not really worried about it anymore. But how long until the dead are gone? Season 65?
It's looking that
We're
way.
going to be here a while.
Oh, we might be here a while. But yeah, that's kind of what I noticed, is that it's definitely more living versus living kind of conflicts, especially in these later episodes, or well, later seasons. Especially in the early seasons, it was all about how do we survive, how are we able to
Right.
how are we able to protect ourselves. And then as it got further, you see all these different groups start showing up, and that's the real conflict, is between
Yeah.
people trying to rebuild society, but all these different conflicting values.
Well, living versus living is also a lot more dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because...
There's only so far you can go when you're just mowing down zombies that just kind of, walk around.
Right, the shamble.
Yeah.
Well, Dale, you were saying that the first episode in Season 7 was pretty close to the comics, weren't you?
So I've very recently read that part of the comic, and as far as Glenn's death goes, it was spot on, and a lot of like Negan's speech, even though they had to tone down the language, but pretty spot on, except for the part where he doesn't take Rick off on his own and have to really berate him.
Yeah.
Comic book Rick has a bit less fight in him than show Rick. And there wasn't the whole like almost cutting off Carl's arm or any of that. It just they kill Glenn.
Well, Carl's arm was already off, wasn't it?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. To this point, he's only been shot in the face.
Somehow, recovering from that.
Yeah. Rick's hand's gone though. That happened a long while
That's
ago.
what,
Oh, it's
that's
Rick's
what
hand.
it is. Rick's hand is
Because
gone.
wasn't it cut off by the governor in the comic books?
It's cut off by the governor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was like way before, and I think that's definitely kind of a TV thing. They didn't want to have to cut off Rick's hand because then
Yeah, and just
That
just becomes...
make
Andrew
Andrew
Lincoln
Lincoln
would
go
have to
through
wear
that
this.
every week.
yeah, every single week, and since he's like the star of the show, basically, like he would have to constantly have like an appendage or something like that, or
Well, I
make it
guess-
up. So
I guess while we're here then, while we're on this topic, we can kind of talk about who do we think is the better, I guess, likable villain almost between the governor and Negan. Like, who do you think is I know we've had more time with the governor, and his arc is finished, and Negan's still, very much in the middle, but who do you think you like more as a villain for Rick's group?
Dale, how about you start us off?
You go with Negan because Negan like actually is more evil. Like the governor had his thoughts and reasonings for why he did, but he didn't brutally kill anybody just because, really. Like he wanted the prison, and then he wanted Michonne to pay after taking his eye and Penny. But that was really all of his motivation. Negan's motivation is just, I want your stuff, and I can kill you, so it's mine.
Well, but it's also providing, though. I mean, he's got his own thoughts and reasonings for it, too. Maybe he just found a more effective way to get what he wants.
See, that's I agree with you, Dale, that Negan is definitely the more interesting, more fun character. Just because of
evil too.
He is more evil, but I do think he has his reasoning, and I do believe that he is doing things the way he thinks what he thinks is right. Maybe it's not necessarily right because he is
in our eyes.
Yeah, in our eyes, but we're also seeing the story unfold through the tale of Rick's group.
Right.
So
we're automatically predispositioned to be rooting for Rick and his group.
Yeah, because I mean, when you think about it. I mean, he's probably learned by living this long, he's learned that the most effective way to get stuff and to provide for a community is you have to take it.
Yeah.
He's probably run into several other groups that were trying to get his stuff, trying to take over his community. So what he probably knew was that, well, I gotta fight back. I gotta be assertive. I have to take charge, and I have to take over these people. And I have to be ruthless because I need people to respect and fear me. That way I can
maybe not to the extent of just being an evil person, but to gain the authority that he needs to lead.
I do think it's a bit excessive in what he does, but the thing is, he's still doing that in order to provide for his society and create a stable system. And when you look at it, everybody is contributing. Is what he's valuing. Is everyone's got to participate and everyone's got to commit to the whole, as opposed to just individual groups. He's trying to rebuild a society. Now, is it an ideal society that we would see, that we want to live in? Probably not. But that's what he thinks is the best course of action. So I definitely think he is justified in his own head, but he is still kind of an evil guy.
Right.
But I just love. What is the actor's name? I can't think of his name. Who plays Negan? Can't remember.
Dean Morgan.
Yeah, Dean Morgan.
James Dean Morgan.
Or Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I just think he is absolutely fantastic as Negan. I think
he's awesome. I love that laugh.
He brings kind of that crazy kind of feel to it. He's crazy, but he's also so likable.
You can't hate him.
You can't hate him because he's got.
He's not.
He's got that lovable smile.
He makes a crazy character not actually seem all that crazy.
Right? Because he's got this this weird position on it where he's always smiling, he's always laughing, he's always having a good time, even right before he bashes someone's head in. And it just kind of it brings the appeal, I feel like. I really like the Negan character, and I really like the way that he's portrayed.
Oh yeah, I think the casting there was absolutely spot on.
Oh yeah.
I would like an entire Negan show, starting from the beginning.
I would love to see a mini-series, honestly. I think that it could be a thing that happens in the future, maybe after the arc is passed. But I would love to see a mini-series of just a couple of episodes where it just focuses on Negan getting to where he is now before Rick's group meets him.
How he turns into this kind of crazy psychopath.
Like the show, in the beginning, because his thing is a trait of, I protect you from the walkers, but you give me stuff, right? What leads him to that? What leads him to Lucille and the part where he has to bash people's brains in?
To me, as a businessman, I think that he is realizing, because he is such a smart guy, I think he's realizing that there is no currency of the land besides protection and food. And so he's trying to give protection to those who can't afford it, essentially, for just a cut of their food. Mm-hmm. And it's not even necessarily like Hilltop isn't a big scavenger group. It's more of a, farm society kind of thing. So it's these people that are in relatively out of harm's way, and all they really need to sustain their life on Hilltop is the protection.
Mm-hmm.
So all they're saying is, I want some of your shit for...
See, I feel like that's probably how he started out, was he was probably in a group that was very, like, walker killing,
Yeah.
like a very offensive kind of group, and then he found smaller groups that couldn't protect themselves that were maybe like farming communities.
Yeah.
And basically he probably worked out a deal like, hey, I will protect you if you like help give us some of your food and help us grow.
Right.
And
Small
maybe
barters into...
And he did that for some time, but then he got to the point where he would run across bigger groups, and they'd say, and they would have like a farm, they would be able, like, self-sufficient. He said, hey, like, we'll protect you from the walkers if you give us some stuff. And they say, oh no, we don't need protection.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the only way I'm gonna grow is if I get more
Yeah.
stuff and I get more resources to feed my people. So instead of protecting you from the walkers, we're selling you protection from us.
Yeah.
So now you're going to need protection from us by giving us your stuff. And it could have, like, he could have been put in a situation where he had to do that in order to expand or in order to feed his people. So he had to become aggressive.
And this is all speculation.
All speculation, of course. We're just kind of talking about, like, how we think he became the man he is today.
I don't know, Dale. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're pretty spot on as far as ideas go with what might have been. But I think,
Of course, it could be anything. But
Yeah, it could be anything.
yeah, it
That's
could be
something
anything.
I'm
Maybe
kind
he was just a douchebag from the beginning. I don't know. But
that's possible too.
That's kind of what I'm
Less
hoping
interesting.
who knows? Maybe he was just like a baseball coach, and so he had the bat, and then, like, I don't know, he gets like, oh, hey, barbed wire. Oh, and then he just beats somebody down, and that's just like his thing.
Well, Lucille is, I know in the comics, Lucille is named after his dead wife. The bat's named after his dead wife, and I don't know the exact specifics in there. I've read a little bit of the comics, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of my take on it. Well, I mean, that's what they say, is that it's named after his dead wife. What I'm really hoping for in season 8 is they do kind of tell us how Negan got there.
I got it in my brain here. He killed his zombie wife Lucille with that bat, and that's why he keeps it on him.
That might be in the comics, actually. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know the comics.
I
Dale, you're
don't
gonna have to
either,
verify
so I'm
this
just
for us.
throwing it out. Yeah.
I think it's an idea they should go with, and then, like, just have a story,
Well,
tell it. It doesn't need to be crazy long.
You don't get to have a whole episode on the governor and then not have a whole episode on Negan.
That's the thing.
You gotta be fair here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of what we really need. We've established, like, what a big threat Negan is and how kind of crazy he is, but also how good he is at running a society. Well, it's not the best society out there. He is good at running it, but we need to kind of see how he became that man. Like, what was
Right.
his journey that led him to that?
Well, that's what we got with the governor. So I'm hoping that they take the time out of, hopefully season 8, because I'm anxious for it. But I'm hoping that they take the time out to really expand on that idea.
We got an entire episode for Morgan and why he doesn't kill people.
Right.
Yeah.
That was actually an extended episode too. It was like an hour and a half.
Right. I would be surprised if we don't get an episode on Negan, because like we were saying, the AMC character development is so large. I would be very surprised if we didn't end up seeing anything about it.
But they need to do it in such a way that we watch it and then we're like, okay, I get him now. I get why he is this
Yeah.
way. And you almost don't want Rick to, like, kill him.
Sorry. Well, that kind of leads into the idea. I guess the next thing on our list was, is Negan kind of an anti-hero? And we don't really follow him as the story progresses. But do we think that if we did follow Negan, would we see Negan as the hero and Rick's group as the enemies?
Probably. Because at this point, Rick really, he's done some stuff.
That's what
and
we were talking about before we started. Was Rick is really not that morally sound if you compare like the things he's done and the people he's killed.
No, I mean, if you think about it, in to so Rick gets up with the hilltop and just like, hey, we've got a problem with these people. Eh, we're offering. Rick offers to kill the saviors for food. Rick goes after the saviors. He just kills saviors. Knows nothing about them. He just kills them. So Negan's sitting there like, hey, you just killed my guys. Like, why are you killing my group? Now I kill you. Oh, you killed more of my guys. Now I really got to kill you.
Yeah, Negan's got kind of an eye for an eye thing going on.
But here's the
not Carl's eye though.
No, not his eye. But here's the thing. Negan has had so many opportunities to kill them, and they have fought against him. They've rebelled against him so many times, and they've killed so many of his men, but he still leaves the community alive. He does take a few people here and there. He's like, well, I'm going to take them because you need to understand loyalty. He doesn't kill them outright.
Right.
He is using them for, like, his benefit.
He's got to keep them alive, though, because that's the only way they're going to get him more stuff.
Exactly. So he does have, I do think he has a little bit of, like, mercy and a little bit of sympathy in his heart. A little bit, maybe not a whole lot.
But who knows if that mercy, it could easily be confused for almost like a blackmail, right? Because it's like, now you know at any given time, I can just take one of you and kill you outright. So you're going to do what I say now.
And that's the thing is, like, he's always like, I could kill any one of you and do it at, like, any time. But for the most part, he hasn't had a huge kill count on Rick's group. I mean, he's gotten a few people, I mean, especially at the beginning.
Well, they're main characters, so they count double as hard.
Okay,
they're the 2 times.
But that's the thing, he's only taken a few people. So, like, if we saw it from Negan's perspective, where he's only killing off a few people as to save the whole community and bring them under his wing, do you think we would see him as justified and Rick as, like, kind of a rebel trying to disrupt his order?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I do think it's interesting that an entire outpost of saviors equals 2 main characters, but...
And that's the thing, is, like, that's kind of his... Like, he wasn't, like, an eye for an eye. Like, you took this many of my men. You took an entire outpost. I'm going to wipe you guys out.
He's got his own courage.
It was the motorcyclists that Daryl blew up. An entire outpost was 1, and then after that, 1 punch equaled 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So an entire outpost and, what, like 4 dudes equals... 1 main character. That's the currency of the land.
And then, I mean, that's why, what was it? That's why, Abraham died, or whatever.
Because, yeah, he was the first one.
Yeah, and then, Glenn just died because Daryl decided to act up.
I do like how they totally brought that back, and they brought it full circle, and Daryl had guilt for what happened.
I'm glad they didn't just blow
yes.
I'm glad that they didn't ignore it.
The episode where Maggie and him are at the hilltop and they have to hide.
Right. Yeah, that was really good. And I think it shows a lot of development for Daryl, too.
Which I feel is kind of needed. I feel like...
Daryl's been he's been a sleeper for so long.
We need more Daryl.
I need badass Daryl back. Daryl hasn't been the same since he went looking for Sophia. Of course, we got a lot of development back then too, but his motivations are totally changed at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, even between Sophia then Merle, and everything changed after Merle too.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I do think we need to see a little bit more of Badass Daryl again, because when I first started watching the show, he was like one of the main selling points.
Oh yeah.
Because just of how such a badass he was, and yeah, while it is cool to kind of see him grow and see how this world is changing him, like he was a super badass, but after all these terrible things have happened to him, like he's starting to fall victim to all these tragedies. and it's really changing him as a person and how he sees the world.
Right.
But I do want to see that badass Daryl again. I need something for. I really want to see something.
It's kind of like when Carol was a badass and then she kind of just became mom.
Yeah.
Where it's disappointing to see the character go, but while you're happy that they're moving on almost, like you want that back though. You want Sniper Carol.
You want to see kind of that kind of rallying cry
that
brings him back into that kind of badass state.
They've almost become domesticated.
Oh, exactly.
And I'm hoping that after the whole Negan thing, maybe that turns.
I think it's kind of a parallel. They're starting to get more domesticated, more not so much badass, but more kind of like real people, almost.
Well, even in all their fights, they're still more domesticated than they once were.
I think it's because they instead of like on the run constantly, they're always moving. They've actually settled down and they got homes and they have like a settlement and they have a safe place. And I think it was that urgency of being scared, like you don't know when a walker is going to come by and bite you on the neck or something like that.
That's true, but now they're not scared of that anymore.
They're only scared of people, which is why things are. Once they kind of had like their safety.
Shipping into like politics.
Because they have their safety from the walkers, pretty much. They're still kind of a threat, but not nearly as much as they were. They've become more kind of sensitive to all the little emotional things that they weren't originally, because they didn't have to worry about that. They had to worry about
it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Exactly.
Oh, some psychology for you.
Yeah, now that they've dealt with the major threat, then leads into the next problem that's higher up on the list, which is like, emotional things after food, water, shelter are taken care of,
and safety.
Yeah. Which is interesting because the safety should not be checked off that list.
Because they're not really safe.
Nobody's ever safe.
No.
But they're more safe in comparison. They feel
but that's
safe.
What's so interesting.
They can sleep behind walls.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can sleep behind walls. Because there were a whole lot of sleepless nights around that third season where they were just terrified to do anything. And I really liked that sense of urgency. And I'm not even like a big horror fan or anything like that, but I really liked how they always had somebody on watch too. They don't have that really. Well, I mean they do, but it's
like one person for
literally a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's now more of a job than your life is on the line. Everyone's life is on the line if you don't keep watch.
Right. It's interesting to think of what would happen. What's going to happen in the coming seasons.
See, it could. What I'm thinking is because of this very large-scale fight that they're going to have with Negan, it's definitely a possibility that Alexandria and the Hilltop, these could be completely destroyed and just kind of get caught in the crossfire,
right?
And collateral damage.
Oh, something's getting destroyed.
I bet. And they might have to go back on the run, and it might have to be. They'll have to work for another location again.
Well, I hope that they do, because was it after the prison where Rick had his "This is not a democracy" speech? Bill?
Sorry, what was that?
Was it after the prison where Rick had his "This is not a democracy" speech?
Yes.
I think.
No, because after the prison, they all got split up and then ended up in Terminus.
Right.
So it was after the
farm.
It
was after the farm. Yeah, after the farm. That, for me, was a really awesome closer. I really like that. And I want to see more of that. I don't know, I feel like we've had some downtime, and then the governor picked it up a little bit more. And then I think we're in a lull. But I have a feeling that this next coming season, Negan's definitely going to destroy some shit. He's definitely going to at least eliminate one of the communities, of the three that we're pooling for.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot of deaths.
I think we're going to see a lot.
I think they're going to tighten up the character cast and get.
We
have a lot of characters now that actually kind of matter.
Right.
And that's kind of the downside. The cast is usually pretty great. There's always a few stinkers in there. because
and they can't always have everybody doing something.
Exactly, because the cast is so large. Typically,
Yeah.
you can't get full development, and you can't fully flesh out a character, which is why you have these individual episodes completely dedicated to one character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that after this battle, if we see kind of the tightening down of like the character, like the roster that they have going on,
I think it'll either be tightening down, or it'll be like full blown domestication, where it's just like this giant group of people who all live in one place. I think those are the two things. That's what I predict to happen, at least. There's one or the other. I think it's gotta.
See, I don't know if it's exactly going to come true, but I'm hoping for they kind of tighten it down and they make it more focused on a few individual characters,
right,
and their interactions with each other, as opposed to having this one off episode about this character you see like interact with the rest of the party like maybe once or twice, really. But you have a whole episode dedicated to them, and it kind of like breaks up the pacing a little bit.
I think I don't really want to see little badass, or what's the baby name?
Oh, little ass kicker.
A little ass kicker. I'm not sure how that's gonna flush out, because they've pretty much completely ignored the baby.
Yeah, because they're domesticated.
Like,
they haven't focused on here's what it's like to have a baby in the apocalypse. It's like, yeah, it lives in the house, whatever.
I think I prefer it though.
Absolutely.
That we don't care.
I'm kind of okay with her just being relegated as a side thought.
Yeah.
Because as a baby, she doesn't really add anything to the story.
I feel like she doesn't give any kind of motivation to Rick either.
Not anymore.
I feel like it's just a memory of what once was.
Shane.
But he's got bigger fish to fry at
Shane.
this point. Yeah.
It's a memory of shit. He even said that in the last season, which I thought was absolutely crazy that he actually like brought it back.
I thought it was awesome.
In the book, he acknowledges it a little bit more. Like, yeah, it's probably Shane's.
Well, he like basically right out says like it's Shane's baby.
This is not my baby. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I remember. Yeah.
It's like my old best friend's baby who I killed.
But it's still a part of the family because it has to be, because we're all survivors.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like that's probably why she's kind of relegated to the side, is because she's really not Rick's flesh and blood. And so it's not like a direct tie like Carl is. Like, well, he probably still cares for her.
It's a group member, not a family member.
It's a group member, exactly. But Carl is still family.
And Carl.
And Michonne is now family too, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, that's a thing.
That whole thing.
I don't know. That's kind of disappointing to me, because I always really liked Michonne as kind of that badass character.
She's housewife now.
Yeah, she's turning into a housewife because they're getting domesticated. So Rick should stop fucking people because he ruins characters.
Well, it's probably gonna end up like leading to Michonne's death, but
I wouldn't doubt it. Like,
I want to see more Crazy Rick. I haven't seen Crazy Rick since the Horde in Alexandria. I want more Crazy Rick.
We saw him beginning of season 7 when Negan took him off and gave him the hatchet.
That was like Panic Rick.
Yeah, that was more.
I want like I'm gonna clear a cell block Rick.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah, I want Crazy Rick.
I'm gonna walk out to a horde of walkers with nothing but an axe and just go to town.
Crazy Rick is so much fun.
Crazy Rick is the best. That's easily one of my favorite moments from the show, is when Rick just goes ballistic.
And
bites a man's jugular.
I will never forget. Yeah, I will never forget that scene where they're like, "Anyone seen Rick?" And they're like, "No, I think he's clearing out like cell block 3," and he's just drenched in blood, just knocking zombies.
Oh, right after Lori, yeah.
Right after Lori, and I was like, "Oh, that's so badass."
He just goes and kills walkers just to vent.
Yeah, like, oh man, legendary.
So, how do we get Crazy Rick back? We killed Judith, right?
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
It's nothing personal to the baby, but I like the idea that
we get a crazy.
It doesn't matter that much.
Well, because she's hardly in any episodes. She doesn't make a real big impact.
I think part of that is just a TV thing, and the whole like, yeah, do we really want to work with like the kid thing?
Yeah, working with a baby is probably difficult.
Well, but there's also like the only time that Judith ever made any kind of impact besides Lori's death was
Which A+, by the way.
Which A+, was when they were walking through the zombie, like the mega horde, and they had to be quiet, and Judith started crying.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was pretty much the only time where Judith was really all that important.
Even that, I mean,
because like they
were starving on the road, and it still wasn't like a big thing.
Oh yeah. What? Oh my god, that baby would be crying 24/7. So everything smells bad.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to eat.
I mean, the only memorable thing I remember from season 7 is that like Negan sits down and he like feeds her. And that was it. That's really all we saw of her. And
I think Tara plays with her.
Oh yeah, well I mean,
but
she doesn't really matter.
There's almost like this nod to like the audience that's like, remember that there's a baby? I don't.
We didn't forget.
We still remember.
Well, I think part of it is because, Judith really isn't in the comic, so there's no plot line based around it.
More reason to kill her.
But Daryl is also not in the comics.
But
Daryl's Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl's Daryl, but doesn't what's his name? Crap. The burn face guy.
Dwight.
Doesn't Dwight like basically become Daryl though in the comics?
So I've got a bit of theory on this since so Dwight becomes a major character in the comics. We've seen him already turn on Negan, and there's a possibility that he fully turns on Negan and just joins Rick. But I think because we already have crossbow guy Daryl, I think they're gonna kill Dwight and just they're still gonna have the turn, but I think he's gonna end up dead, and then Daryl will take Dwight's place from the comics.
And that would make Dwight Daryl, which means that Daryl is now in the comics.
Essentially.
If all those things happen.
I mean, essentially, like, all the major plot points that happen, like, the comic, like, it has all of its plot points, and it all has all of its little stories, but in the show, you have different characters take those story points.
Right. As to fit better into a TV situation. So let's do, let's lead into predictions then. What do you think?
Predictions on the next episode?
Yeah, what's going to happen in Season 8, Episode 1?
Episode 1. I feel like Episode 1, it's, in my personal opinion, I think it's going to be them kind of rallying together. Just, they've already kind of established that they're going to go fight Negan and the Saviors. I feel like now that we're going to see them kind of get together real quick and like kind of build up their army and their resources and stuff. And I feel like it's going to end with them assaulting one of Negan's outposts or one of Negan's like groups. Not a big, huge battle, but I feel like it's going to be the start of that confrontation.
The start of something new.
Get something to get us hooked and to show us that like there's a much bigger thing going on.
We're gonna kick it off.
I feel like that's my personal prediction on what's going to happen in the first episode.
I think so. Walking Dead has a thing where its openers and its closers are really big and really major. I think they get together and they go right after the trash holes and they're done.
And the trash holes are done?
Yeah.
That would actually be really cool to see.
My prediction, and I do have a history with predictions.
Oh, very good predictions.
My prediction is they gather up, they get everybody together, they're feeling fresh off the boat, off essentially their victory at Alexandria, and they go to ram it down Negan's throat, and a lot of them die, and they retreat. And then they end up, I think the end of the episode. I'm gonna go really deep on this prediction. I'm gonna guess the end of the episode is them going back to the kingdom, and Oceanside meeting them at the kingdom and saying, "Hey, we want to fight," and then that'll make up for their lost soldiers almost.
Definitely.
And then it'll they'll be more smart about their next attack, and then it'll end on them like planning and all that stuff. So I'm gonna go real specific, and it'll be a good payoff if I'm right, because they'll be recorded. I'll have proof.
Oh yeah.
But that's what I think. I don't know though. It could be really anything.
It could honestly be anything, but I feel like.
But I think that there's got to be, like Dale was saying, the openers and the closers are huge, and I think it's really got to be something to hook in the people who maybe lost interest in season 7.
I'm gonna go
I definitely think.
out on another limb and say episode 2, we get our Negan episode.
I'm gonna say 3, but
I think we can all agree that season 8, episode 1 is going to start off with a fight. It's going to start off with a fight of some kind.
right.
As something, it's going to be, doesn't matter who it is, it's going to be a big fight between Rick's group, some unknown antagonist.
Right. Whoever it is.
And there's going to be people dying.
I think that both sides. Yeah, I think in my fight scenario, in my prediction, I think that both sides lose a bit of people, but it's a clear winner in Negan's favor.
Does anybody major die? Because we've had plenty of just kill fodder deaths.
Right. Well, even like what was the pantry lady in Alexandria died, and it's like, oh well, I don't really care. I think Jesus dies, but not in this episode.
I'm also. Are we gonna talk about our death poll now? Are we gonna?
Yeah, let's do death poll. So are we gonna do? Let's do for the full. Let's do. You know what? Let's just go for the full to the mid-season, the first 9 episodes.
All right. Who's all we're gonna predict dies?
Yeah. So we need a list here then.
I'm writing it down.
Look at, so we can.
Oh.
Well, I mean, like we need a list so we know who to choose from. I'll let you go first, Dale, if you have an idea already.
Okay, I think the number one person I think is gonna die, I think it's gonna be Morgan.
Okay.
I think after he killed that guy, I think his story arc is gonna be coming to a close, and I think he's expendable.
I agree. However, I am gonna go against your. Wait. Well, I guess I should say who else do you think is gonna die?
That was my number one that I really wanted to say. I mean, I've already said I think Dwight will probably be dead, and maybe Simon.
Simon being Negan's right hand man, Stephen Ogg.
Yes.
Trevor, if you will. Is that who you have then? That's who you have down.
I'm trying to think of our actual good guys who might die.
We have a lot of good guys, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of characters I really don't care about.
Like Rosita could get it. Eugene could easily die at some point.
I think I'm gonna go with Gabriel. I agree with you on Rosita, and I'm thinking Jesus, but I think okay. And here's another thing. I think in episode 1, Gregory's gonna die.
Oh, Gregory.
Ooh, that's a good prediction.
Because he was last seen going to Sanctuary. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun.
But I'm gonna say like Gregory episode 1. He's kind of a minor character, so I don't know if we want to count that. I'm hoping
We know
that
his name,
Enid,
so.
I'm hoping that Enid doesn't die, but maybe just runs away forever.
She seems pretty
I hate her.
insignificant at this point.
I hate her character so much. but I really don't want her to become a love interest for Carl, because that would just...
Quarrel.
It's just two characters I hate.
I feel like Carl has been getting he's been getting better in the show. He's not so much as
I still resent him for everything else, though.
That's fair. I can't argue with that. Carl's kind of awful.
He's the worst.
The best thing that happened to him is he got shot in the eye. Poor Carl.
Or in the chest. Carl's just out there getting shot a lot.
Rick too.
That's kind of Carl's thing. Yeah, Rick gets shot too. But I mean, it's funnier when Carl gets
Yeah,
shot.
but like Carl's main stage is a hospital bed. There's so many episodes where he's just like incapacitated with bandages on. Oh man. Hopefully he gets it soon. I don't think he will, but
I think it's possible.
I hope every season.
Only because of the whole child acting thing and the fact that he's outgrowing the role so faster than they can make the episodes.
Right. I don't know. I don't think they're gonna do it, but I pray for it every season.
I don't know. I think he's probably one of the characters that's changed the most and is actually one of the more dynamic.
Yeah, I do agree that he has changed the most, and he is definitely getting better. But it's still all those earlier seasons. Which
He's gone from
just wet napkin Carl.
he went from like whiny kid to
Angsty
whiny
teen.
teenager to angsty teenager to cocky teenager to what? No, he's still cocky teenager.
Yeah, considering he went after Negan himself.
Yeah, he needs to be punished. Damn it!
He lost his eye.
The episode where he went to Negan, I was so ready for him to die. I was so ready.
I was half expecting it. I was like, okay.
I was hoping. There's always that voice in my head that says they're just not gonna kill him though.
I'll never kill Carl.
Maybe he'll die and then Crazy Rick can come and kill Negan. We're ready for that. CJ, what do you think? Who do you think's dying?
I'd like to say number one. I think Jesus is gonna die this season.
Okay.
I think Jesus is gonna die because we're starting to get a little bit more character development on him, and we're starting to see him have a bigger role within the group, and I feel like they're gonna nip that right in the bud.
Well, he's almost got like this like he's the tracker hunter map guy almost.
Yeah, and I definitely think that he's gonna help him out, and we're gonna start to see Jesus kind of flourish into a nice, well-rounded character who helps the group,
and then
he dies. And he will, because they love doing that. They like building up a character right before they die, and I feel like Jesus is just about to hit that point.
Well, he seems to almost know too much. Like he's the guy. He's like, what do we do, Jesus? And he's like, I know a guy. And then he's like, yeah, it's just this guy with a huge farm community with a tiger. And you're like, oh, Jesus, why didn't you, like, tell us about that? Like, what the hell?
I feel like Jesus, if they want to go
He's an ex machina.
Yeah, he's an ex machina. I definitely feel like if they want to go the full, like, religious, like
Approach.
parallels,
Yeah,
like if they want to definitely draw it to that, he's gonna sacrifice himself to the group for the group,
and then he will be resurrected.
maybe.
Well,
zombie
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he already
Jesus.
is gonna get resurrected. He just won't be alive.
Yeah, that's true.
Who else do you think?
I think Eugene is gonna bite the bullet.
I still think he has the potential to come back.
I feel like when he decided to go with Negan, he kind of dug his own grave there. Like he's not coming back from that.
Rick was fully prepared to kill him at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
That's the thing. Is like I definitely think he is going to die, even if like Rick says, "Oh, I'll accept you back" or like something like that. He's gonna end up dead. I feel like there's really no.
There's only so many turns you can do to a character though before it becomes exhausting.
That's the thing. Is I think
his story arc is gonna be he's gonna like really get farther and farther into Negan, but he's gonna come back up at the end and help Rick, but he's still gonna end up dead.
Yeah, that's totally where I was about to go with it.
Yeah.
Is like he's still on Rick's side in the end, before his death.
Yeah. So, those are my first two. I believe Tara. I want to see her die.
Yeah, she's
No
insignificant.
real reason. Yeah. Nothing significant. Don't like her as a character.
We
Would
just
like to
know
see
her.
Well, she had her story arc with the whole Oceanside thing. That's probably over,
Mhm.
so she's expendable.
Yep.
And the Alana thing, right? And then now.
Yeah. So, don't like her as a character. Would like to see her dead. That's my three for the
Food for thought. No?
the death poll we got going on.
Of course, there'll always be more at the end of the
Of
full
course.
season.
Of course.
But yeah, so I think that's all we got for this episode, though. Does anyone else have anything to add before we close?
Sam,
I would just like to say,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. For
so
sure.
am I. Very excited.
Well, with that in mind, we should have a new episode up next Monday. We'll have the recording done on Sunday, and then we'll put it up on Monday for you guys. If you'd like to see kind of our take on almost The Talking Dead. If you guys have any comments about what you think is going to happen in Season 7, throw them down below. That way you can be totally vindicated when you are 100% right. If you like our style of Talking Dead, go ahead and leave a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this or some of our other podcasts that we're due, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I think that's pretty much all we got. So have a nice day.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we'll catch you next week.